I made two predictions, as I said, 2 years ago, on October 2nd, 2015. The first one was that Donald Trump was going to be elected President of the United States. This came true in November 2016. The second prediction I made was that the Iranian sanctions, which were just being lifted, could be reimposed if a Republican president was elected. This happened also. So that's accuracy in predicting 100%. So I may have another prediction that in the United States, Marple Annex 1 regulations are evolving. There are two distinct tensions in the Trump administration. There is a tendency to move towards reducing the regulatory state, and that means drastically cutting back on the budget of the Environmental Protection Agency. In 2017, the proposal was to reduce it down to 31%. The other tendency or tension in the administration is to keep things as they are. The tendency that is prevailing is that the resources of the Department of Homeland Security should be committed to immigration control and prevention of terrorism and less enforcement of environmental protection regulations. As a result, we see that the Port State Control Authorities, the Coast Guard, are concentrating on fewer targets of higher value. We believe that the ODME bypass cases are these higher value targets. The ships that are targeted are generally products carriers. The kinds of operations that are targeted are set out in Regulation 34, which is the disposal of tank washings overboard. And the regulation allows this process to take place when the vessel is underway, not in a special area, not nearer than 50 nautical miles from shore. A maximum of 30 liters per nautical mile may be discharged. Then the quantity of oil discharged may not exceed 1/30,000 of the total quantity of the cargo, and all of these operations have to be performed through the vessel's oil discharge monitoring equipment, the ODME. Even though these operations are permissible and have been permissible for many years, we see very scant evidence of enforcement. Instead, the evidence that we see of enforcement is oily water separator bypasses, not ODME bypasses. You can get an idea of what proportion of these cases are prosecuted, referred to prosecution, as between oily water separator bypass and ODME bypass by going to this website. And the proportion of oily water separator enforcement is overwhelming. Why are so many why so few ODME prosecutions? Is it perhaps because deck officers are more law-abiding than engine officers? That doesn't make any sense. But there are estimates which attribute some 3,000 incidents of unlawful discharges of oily mixture from cargo spaces annually. So these discharges happen, but why the oily water separator prosecutions are more prevalent, so much more prevalent? I think that the answer may lie in this. I can show you a diagram of an ODME system but I can show you a picture of an oily water separator. A tanker's ODME system is a complex system of fixed piping, flow meter, oily water analyzer, a computer unit, and a GPS. Bypassing an oily water separator is a much simpler process. Bypassing a ship's ODME would be a much more complex undertaking. Nevertheless, we have seen the Coast Guard increasingly becoming interested in ODME bypass cases. The record-keeping requirements are under MARPOL Regulation 36, which requires that an oil record book 2 be kept. And here are the entries that must be entered in the oil record book. We're interested in number 7, discharge of water from slop tanks. The regulation also tells you who is responsible on board the ship for the maintenance of the oil record book 2. What is exactly that U.S. Port State Control is inspecting when it comes to ODME inspections, bypass inspections? There is a guidance of the Coast Guard in a classic, now 2006 guidance for the enforcement of MARPOL Annex 1 during Port State Control examinations, authored by Captain Michael Carr. But if you look through this, you will not find any guidance. It addresses mostly oily water separators and bypassing of oily water separators. In practice, how does the Coast Guard enforce oily ODME bypass cases? There is a record kept by the ODME itself, an electronic record. However, this is not easily accessible or readable routinely by Port State Control officers. An ODME specialist from outside, from the industry, must be brought in order to read that. It's a complex process, an expensive process, and the knowledge is in many areas may not be found there. Where the information comes usually is from whistleblowers. Whistleblowers are motivated by anger because of shipboard conditions or onboard discontent syndrome, or greed for the reward money. But apart from the information of snitches and stoolies, the Coast Guard relies on things that are very evident on board in selecting a target ship. Such things as oil record books that are not signed in every page by the master, unauthorized modifications to the ODME, other substandard practices like a very dirty ship with a very dirty pump room. So the convictions or referrals to prosecution, at least, involve cases where it is very, very clear and obvious to the Coast Guard that there has been overboard discharging of slops by use of portable pumps, from the slop tanks or from cargo tanks direct. Finally, a successful prosecution relies very much on communications between the office and the vessel, which are routinely caught in an investigation. ODME bypass cases put the company particularly at risk because they can be represented as cases in which the company has directed the unlawful bypass for monetary gain, to make a short canceling date, to avoid the cost of discharging large quantities of slops at proper reception facilities, or to provide additional space for cargo in the slop tanks. Such motives can lead to an enhancement of the fines imposed and may make product carriers a higher value target for enforcement. Thank you very much for listening.
Okay.